Hey everyone, my name is Sydney Lai, and today I'm going to be building an NFT wallet with the OutSystems IDE. As a reminder, the IDE is a web and mobile application where developers can build for projects that can scale all the way to the enterprise level. So it's pretty robust. And for those who want to learn more about how to build, especially with a focus on using toolings that allow you to scale very easily, check out this podcast interview that I had with Jesse Showalter. So in this episode, it's just really, really great to explore how developers are building, especially with different types of toolings. And if you like this type of content, you can also check him out on YouTube. He is a YouTuber and he has tons of different types of builds and educational videos on how to build as a developer or as a technical designer as well. Now, today I'm going to walk through a technical documentation. I have gotten a lot of feedback in regards to how do we follow along in this technical build. So I think that what I'm going to do today, because this is a longer build, for those who typically take either longer time or want to be able to build through this application step by step, I'm going to include a technical documentation. And in this video specifically, I'm going to help you walk through the technical documentation so that you know, as you're building this, where to hit each part of the, educational piece, right? So what we're going to use today is the OutSystems IDE, and then we're going to use Filecoin's NFT storage. Specifically, Filecoin's IPFS is a peer-to-peer. It's peer-to-peer storage. So rather than having a centralized storage where an entity owns the information, Filecoin is able to allocate storage space amongst all the other peer storage providers on the network. And then what we're going to showcase today is that you have a artwork JPEG. So this is a JPEG, and it's going to be stored in the NFT storage. Once it's stored, it's also going to allocate a specific CID, C in red, here in red. And the CID is this content, it's a content ID specifically. And then you can put this content ID on chain, specifically on the Ethereum network. What we're going to go through is this technical documentation that I'm going to show you in just a bit. But I guess another thing to remember is, how does it work? Essentially, you upload the data, and then on the back, there's an IPFS hash, like the CID that I just mentioned. And then it's going to be used on chain as an NFT data as a pointer. And then, of course, the storage and the retrieval is free. And then the metadata is right here, and it's going to be returned to you in a proper format. You can also then fetch it back via the IPFS, and then there's going to be a whole pinning service. And I'm going to show you how the pinning service is indicated, and that's going to be shown in when I consume the REST API. So there's a lot of confusion about what an NFT is. You can, in a way, use the analogy of an NFT or something that is non-fungible. Means that there is value, but it's not necessarily cash, right? So this Pokemon card is worth $200, but I can't go to the grocery store and buy $200 worth of groceries. So an NFT most commonly used or heard of in the news or the media is that it's digital art. It can be a digital collectible. It can also be a real estate deed on chain. So it's not just art, but it's most commonly used as art. And while today I'm going to be showcasing a build with an NFT wallet, you can still create different types of applications like rights managements, royalty payments. You can make a music player. I think we have a demo out there where you can build a music player. You can have decentralized land management. You can have peer-to-peer Uber, so an access token that allows you to drive your other peers. What I might do is make a video on building an Uber clone, but we'll get there. Today, what I'm going to walk everyone through is just how to build with this REST API with the storage, the NFT storage. And then I'm going to walk you through the documentation step by step. I'm going to also link the document below so that you are also able to build. Now, right now we have, actually, here we go. What we have here is the mobile application. You can see I've already begun penning. It's uploading different images. Like I said, you can have digital collectibles, but you can also have really unique moments and captured on camera as well. So there is a whole series of the Aurora Borealis as an example. And so in this build, I've also included a photo capture where you can take a photo, but because this is on desktop, I'm just going to be able to upload images, and that's totally fine with this example. So what I'm going to do while walking you through this is what you can do to get started is once you've downloaded the free application, you can create your own application here, and you can also design how you want the layout to be. I've chosen a very simple layout where you can just drag images and then you can just have a feed. And then I've decided to just showcase the CID when the image was created and then the status if it's pinned or not. And then pinning is essentially asking the node to keep the data so that it's not trashed, so that you can pin the data. And what you're going to do is when you get started, you can create the application from scratch. So you can see here I've created an application, and then once you've created the application, you also want to create a wrapped API, or what we call a Forge component. And once you want to create a Forge component, if you see in the documentation, what it's going to have you do is, unlike the first one, which is the phone app, the second one, you're going to have a service. You're going to create a service specifically. Once you've created the service, you want to go into the REST integrations. So integrations, well, this is actually quite logical. Logic, integrations, and then REST. Once you go into REST, you want to be able to consume the REST API, and you're going to add multiple methods. When you're adding multiple methods, you want to essentially convert the YAML file that NFT storage gives you right here, the YAML file, and then just use any kind of converter and then save the file into a JSON file. Once you upload the JSON file, it very easily just populates these three here. Check, you've got your delete, list, status, store. Basically, this maps out to this right here, right? So you have your upload, your list, your status, your check. And so on this documentation, when you create your free account at NFT Storage, you're also able to get your own CID right here. And then you're also able to get your own key. So your API key, which is right here. So all you have to do is copy and paste. And when you map out the authorization key, it actually spits out an input parameter where you're able to authorize. So what we're going to do in the documentation as a reference, you're going to be able to go through check, delete, list, status, store, and all you do is open. You go through the authorization. This has already been done. You can see the body has already been populated with my CID. So what I'm going to do here is you do authorization test. So you include your CID found here. So copy, and then you have your bearer, and then you include your specific API key. Now, once you have that, do push test. I've already run it. So once you push test, it will spit out information. You want to copy the response body and it will show up here, and then just finish. Once that's done, you'll do that for check, delete, status, and store. The one thing that's different is the listing. Now, in the listing, you're going to have before and limit parameter values. You'll find that here in the list right here. Yep. So in here in list, you're going to just copy the dates. And now what you want to do is just set the date to the future. So you can put 2022, 2024, etc. And then put the limit of 10, just like the documentation. Now, once that's been created, what we want to do is also be able to, well, essentially what you've done now is just wrap the API. And now you want to make sure that now that we've ended on the list, you also want to be able to create a service action that allows you to list your images, right? You want to list your applications. So what we have now is that this is the API, this is the application itself. Now, what we're going to do is go to actually, here's another thing. Let me see. So here we have the API, and what we're going to do is go into the service action, and you want to create a service action. So add service action, and you want to call it list. And all of these input parameters, you can just simply copy here. So command, if you're on Mac, just copy, and then you just want to paste it into this service action. You can see here in the instructions, at this point of the video, you're going to be able to find those instructions right here. So click on service actions. You can see in the logic tab, like I just said, you're going to be able to just copy these input parameters. So copy all 4 parameters and then paste them into the list service actions. Once you have them in your service actions, you want to be able to ensure that you are able to set the limits again. So before, limit, and then again, of course, authorization. So when you read the documentation and it says assign the list by dragging the assign blue, what that means is here you're going to see the logic flow. So when you start the application, you're going to be able to list. And then this is the assign that I had just explained in the documentation. So you just want to drag it to the logic flow, and then that becomes the response. So you want to be able to have the response, and then you want to assign where you list the response. So you just copy or drop down here and then click on the list response. And you may get some errors asking to make your structures public. So just make sure that it's set to public so that everyone can see your awesome application, right? And what we're going to do is then also make sure that you're able to integrate your API. So what we're going to do here is that in this app right here, you're going to go into the interface, and then in the elements in the home screen, you're also going to fetch other data sources. So where this is in the documentation is you're going to be able to fetch other data sources. And when we talk about managing dependencies in the OutSystems IDE, the manage dependencies is here, and you're able to essentially call out to all of these camera plugins. You're going to have the API wrapper plugin, and you want to check all these boxes, right? And so that you're able to apply, and then it's able to essentially have the API be connected or be able to be called. Another part of the application build, or I should say the technical documentation, let's take a look. So following along, what I just shown you was being able to put the response and the logic flow. You have then connecting your database and your images. So what we're going to do is here in the logic and list, you just want to make sure that you also include the let's see. Okay, so we have the module opened up. I'm trying to think where else in the documentation is important to call out. So, oh, okay. So I guess another explainer is the blocks, right? So these are the blocks or the images where you want listed. So as a huge reminder is that you want to be able to include the block widget, and you're able to find the block widget here on the left-hand side. So the block, and you want to be able to nest it in the home screen itself. You can see in the home screen, here are the images, here's the block, and then you want to be able to have a input parameter where you're able to call the CID and assign the image to the CID. So this part of the instructions should be step 6, where you're able to do that. And then, what else should we include? I have just mentioned the camera plugin. That's where you manage your dependencies to be able to include the camera plugin right here. And then, let's see. Another thing is to store your images, right? So when you're storing the images, is the binary image data. This is actually an important reminder. Let's see. This is where, this is essentially the next step where you have once you have the block widget, which is what we just mentioned, is that you want to make sure that your binary image is able to spit out the information. So the input parameter would be named binary image, and then set the data to a binary data, right? And that's essentially yes or no. It's just being able to upload the image itself. And then, let's see. If you're following along the documentation, you want to make sure that once that binary image data is set, then of course you have the ability to copy the store and then include them in the upload section. So when you're able to upload the images, right, you're able to store the images. So here, what we're going to do is copy these 3, and then you're going to go into upload, and it's the same authorization, binary, and response. You can see here you'd want to create you're going to want to be able to create the service action, and then once you create the service action, you just call it upload, and then you just copy here, and then you paste it in. This has been already created, but you would just paste it here, copy, right click, copy and paste, and then these map from the upload map into the store. And once that's done, then you can hit publish, and then you can run it in the browser. So it's already been uploaded, but once you have it in the browser, then you're able to upload an image. We can click on this image as an example. And as you can see, the upload is successful, and it's been established a CID. So what's going to show here, you can see this is just created. It's currently queued rather than being penned. So here's the image, which is this blue guy. And then if I go into my files, you can see this was just created. And then if I click on the image itself, it's the blue guy. So that is a fairly quick just walkthrough of the tutorial documentation. It's a much longer build, but hopefully this video provides you a bit of guidance so that in case when you're going through the documentation, if it doesn't make sense, then you'll be able to have this video as a reference. I've been asked many times, like, hey, Sydney, you have some demo videos, but can you have a walkthrough of the tutorial itself? And so that's the tutorial. And let's see if I have, I guess, like I said, you can make different types of applications, not just an NFT wallet, but that was essentially how we want to build it. And really, if you'd like to have more help, especially since you're walking through this, again, it's a much longer build, I would highly recommend posting your questions in the community forums. We have 420,000 plus developers in the ecosystem who can help answer any questions if you're stuck on on any specific APIs. If you want to download the free edition, you can try it out. My DMs are also open, so if you want any help, feel free to do so. And with that, again, happy to help. My name's Sydney Lai, and feel free to check out other tutorials that we have as well.